In companies that spend millions of dollars on data tools, the actual usage rates of employees is about 1 in 4. And this blows my mind. So no one is actually using data in companies. Why? But I can't let you guys know without asking you the question that I ask all of my guests. What is the best business idea that you would pursue if you had more time?
I started from the bottom, now I'm here. Every day I'm hustling, I ain't got no fear. I had a dream, I had a vision. I turned my ambitions into a mission. I put in the work, I made the sacrifice. Late nights and early mornings, I'm paying the price. I faced the challenges, I overcame the hate.
Smarte Geschäftsideen und wie du sie erfolgreich machst, das ist die Idee dieses Podcasts. Heute habe ich ein Startup eingeladen, von der du wahrscheinlich noch nie gehört hast. Und das ist ehrlich gesagt auch Teil der Story. Natzka ist ein Schweizer Startup und in einem Bereich unterwegs, in dem gerade richtig viel passiert. Decision Intelligence. Im Grunde genommen sagen sie, die Art, wie Unternehmen heute mit ihren Daten umgehen, ist total falsch. Firmen beschäftigen sich viel zu sehr mit der Auswahl der richtigen Tools, der Infrastruktur und so weiter und vernachlässigen das, worum es eigentlich geht. Welche Entscheidung wird durch Daten überhaupt beeinflusst? Und damit machen sie das, was Palantir heute macht. Das ist die sagenumwobene Firma von Alex Karp, die vor allem im Militär unterwegs ist. Das ist Natzka nicht. Aber die Idee hinter den beiden Unternehmen, Natzka und Palantir, ist ganz ähnlich, denn sie beide bauen einen digitalen Zwilling der gesamten Organisation, mit dem Manager vorwärtsgerichtete Entscheidungen simulieren können. Also, was passiert, wenn ich meinen Preis um 5% erhöhe? Wie viel muss ich dann nachbestellen? Wie hoch sind dann meine Lagerkosten? Wie viele Kunden werden abspringen? Das sind genau die Arten von Fragen, die Natzka helfen will zu entscheiden. Und 3 Fragen interessieren mich in diesem Gespräch. Erstens, wie baut man heute eigentlich Software? Lange war es geradezu verpönt, Software stark auf den Kunden zuzuschneiden. Alles musste B2B SaaS sein, Software as a Service, weil es eben viel besser skalieren kann, wenn man Software nicht 1:1 auf den Kunden anpassen muss. Heute hat aber eine Firma wie Palantir mit einem sehr projektgetriebenen Ansatz, also eigentlich inhärent nicht richtig skalierbaren Ansatz, einen Marktwert von $300 Milliarden. Also wie baut man heute eigentlich Software? Frage 1. Zweite Frage. Jedes Unternehmen da draußen sagt, es sei data-driven. Aber wenn man mal in die Zahlen schaut, dann nutzt im Schnitt nur jeder 4. Mitarbeiter in einem Unternehmen überhaupt Daten. Und seit 25 Jahren bewegt sich diese Zahl nicht. Es ist immer ungefähr nur jeder 4., der überhaupt Daten nutzt in einem Unternehmen. Warum eigentlich? Und was kann AI daran ändern? Die dritte Frage, die dieses Gespräch zum Inhalt hat, ist, was passiert eigentlich mit einer Organisation, wenn jeder Zugang zu allen Daten hat? Wie sieht die Firma der Zukunft aus, wenn der Controller und der Data Analyst nicht mehr die Gatekeeper sind? Andrea Masiero und Stefan de Jong von Natzka haben mir heute den Kimono sozusagen einmal geöffnet, den Teppich, den Vorhang zur Seite geschoben. Sie reden eigentlich nicht so öffentlich über ihre Vision mit Natzka. Heute machen sie es schon. Andrea ist der Chief Product Officer und Stefan ist der Chief Technology Officer von Natzka. Eine Bitte für dich, die Tonqualität ist in dieser Folge nicht die allerbeste und das Thema ist etwas technischer, Data Management, aber es lohnt sich aus meiner Sicht wirklich sehr, diese Folge ganz zum Schluss zu hören. Und wenn du mich unterstützen willst, dann abonniere diesen Kanal. Es ist die eine Sache, die mir mehr hilft als alles andere, um immer mehr Menschen mit meinen Geschichten hier zu erreichen. Und jetzt rein in die Folge mit Andrea und Stefan von Natzka. Andrea and Stefan, welcome to Digital Optimisten.
Thank you for having us on the show.
Yeah, I am excited to have you, and I want to start with a stat that blew my mind. A market research company, Gartner, has been tracking data adoption in companies since 2007. And that number has been around 25 to 30% since 2007. So let me translate that. In companies that spend millions of dollars on data tools that have gone through all these waves of new fashions of using data, the actual usage rates of employees is about 1 in 4. And this blows my mind. So no one is actually using data in companies. Why?
The next question actually is very common. Data are not so used or not so well used. And for me, the problem stands in, we have 2 root causes actually for this. So the first one is what is the starting question, right? It is what data we should collect. And this is the question that many companies is asked, and it is answered mainly from IT people, from guys in IT that promote initiative on data pipeline, infrastructures. And so you have a lot of projects that start from IT for the sake of just collecting data and store them, okay? And the question should be, what decision should they take with those data? And what are the repeated decisions that everyday data must support me with? Okay, and there is not always a good answer to it, and we need to shift the perspective on how you tackle this kind of project. And if you start with the decision and why you need those data, then the usage of those kind of platform will improve for sure. So the problem is, first, ownership on who does this kind of project, this kind of process, okay? Building an infrastructure without a decision model on top of it, you build just an expensive storage, if you see what I mean, right? And the second problem is the change management, okay? We must have a leadership, a functional leadership. Because, you know, the human people tends to not want to change. And if people are used to use their Excel file, and then they stick to their Excel file. And it must arrive a moment where, okay, let's start to use a new way of taking this decision with a new tool that help us to improve the way we work. There are a lot of practices, right? Data mesh practices that are really well used, but they are how can I say, an organizational overhead, okay, that you need to put in place. But if it is well led since the beginning, then it can bring some improvement on the way data are used. There is another point that I see used very often in the company. A lot of dashboards, a lot of BI. You have 10, if not hundreds of dashboards. And usually this is another problem when the companies stick to look at the past. Okay? And this is what dashboard provide, right? You look at the past and you cannot interact with those data in a more, let's say, predictive, prescriptive way. Okay? What are the simulation, what if is very important on top of your data. And if you can't simulate on top of your data, data remains just a look at the past. And this is, in my humble opinion, the main reason why this occurs. Okay, and you have a very expensive storage for your data. Is it really used? This is the second phase to make the data project successful. So it's a decision model problem. It's a human problem more than a technological one, if you see what I mean.
That's really interesting. Yeah. So when I was a consultant, I think it's 15 years ago, everyone said data is the new oil. That was the mantra back in the day. And we still hear it today, right? But everyone was convinced. Let's double click what you said, Andrea. And let's take this one by one. How does the average company out there do data management now? At some point, someone says data is the new oil, and now they want to use data. So how does the average company, let's walk through those points that you mentioned before. What happens next when they want to use data?
Yeah. First layer, a data lake. Okay, you got a lot of data, and you put them all together in a single place. not even organized. Okay, you have it there. And this is a problem. They are not yet organized. Okay, so you must organize them. And then you got your data warehouses there, right? And data warehouses, organize them in a way that, okay, it can be easily accessed by whom? But people that know SQL, that know how to query those data. Okay, they are not yet to the people that need to use them. So to bring them closer to people that need to use them, managers, controllers, and whatever functional profile that need those data, they start to build a descriptive layer, data visualization, pure business intelligence, okay? So those are the different layers. But now, when you are in front of your dashboard, what happens if I change the average price or the average discount I can grant to this particular channel? Okay, this is the next phase. Okay, then, okay, I have an actionable insight. And the actionable insight is the key word for me here. Okay, because then it makes the data usable. And I can leverage the information that comes from this layer of data. So, you know, it's the typical, let's say, academic explanation. You got a lot of data that you must turn into information, and this information must be used to take the right decision. Usually people stuck to organizing those data, to create information, but the decision level is hardly achieved sometimes. And this is where we can change the game.
I think that's a really interesting insight, to be honest, because I've been in a couple of companies now, and it's always, these data projects are always led by infrastructure questions. So most people think, and that is true in every organization that I've worked in, think about what's the best data lake? How do we build the data warehouse? How do we connect the data? Then they think about data governance structure. So they really think about, it's like bottom-up infrastructure first. And few people actually start with, okay, what do we want to use the data on? And I think this is what you're getting at. And I was wondering why? Why is there such a strong human tendency to build the infrastructure first and build that up in a great way, basically? And I wondered if this is driven by the consultancies that many companies use to think about their data strategy, because in the end, McKinsey, Deloitte, BCG, whoever you want to think about, they basically benefit from complexity. It needs to be complicated, right, for them to engage with you. So is your way of thinking essentially fighting a business model that consultancy has been pushing into the market?
Not necessarily. It is actually important to have a consultancy layer that can give you the best practice on how to structure those data. Okay, it's more an internal problem of certain company, because the ownership of those processes must come from functional people, from CXOs, more than from people that store their data. It is needed to have a robust data pipeline and infrastructure, because if you don't have them, especially with the volume of data that we have to manage nowadays, those technical infrastructure are needed. But the starting point, the owner of I want those data in that way, must be a functional people. The same person that know the decision. Now, consultant help you to instill best practice, help you to probably, as a consultant myself, I have a lot of experience in different companies from different industries. So some practices can be also mutual to some other company, right? And this is an added value that will remain there. Of course, now we have a lot of automation, a lot of also artificial intelligence that help us to speed up and to better structure those practices. So consultant will remain an important key actor in those kind of projects, but the lead actor must be the functional manager that needs to take the decision. Ideally, the CEO itself that want to spread the strategy top down
and probably you say, right, bottom up versus top down. We must meet in a sort of middle way, okay, halfway, to have the best infrastructure to take the best and most effective decision. Okay, you have to meet halfway there.
Got it. Let's talk about Natzka and the company that you are building. What pain point do you solve with Natzka?
Nice question. A lot of them. At least we try. Our platform is an holistic platform that goes end to end from the data storage to the decision model. Okay, I make it very short. But in this sentence, you have the scope, okay, the breadth of what we provide. For us, it was important to start with an engine, a database engine, that was able to, let's say, fulfill the last mile in a data mesh practice, okay, which is, let me bring the data as close as possible to the end user. This is the first aim that we want to achieve, and we have a very, very robust backend engine that do that. Stefan can talk a lot around the technicalities that we have put there to make it first robust, user-friendly, and then user-ready, because a lot of the gesture that user use to access those data must be common. Okay, you should have some, let's say, digital fluency, but you don't have to be an expert in SQL to access your data. Okay, and this is one of our principles. And then the fact that we provide a lot of features that are tailored to build and structure a decision and to model a decision at whatever level. Okay, it can be an operational decision where the final decision is yes or no. Do I continue to serve that customer? Yes or no. You can structure them. Okay, or a more complex and sophisticated collaborative workflow that can involve different users from different departments and providing different calculation. And the philosophy, the holistic approach of Natzka is I think, the main features, okay, that put together a lot of features that enable the decision model. Is more or less this the approach and the strategy that we provide when implementing our platform.
If I may, we indeed also started as a data engine initially, right? This is, Andrea, how Natzka started. But as we already concluded in this talk, is that there is quite some fragmentation out there because it is a very infrastructure-first world, traditionally speaking. And we soon realized that we want to be on the right side of that conversation and started thinking about what are we actually building? Like, what is the end goal for our users here? And this is how we started to drive the organization, our platform, more and more in the direction of decision intelligence. And this is why we have this, as Andrea already mentioned, holistic stack that contains everything from our own database engine to all the features on top of it to make that data accessible and semantic, a word that will come back a couple more times during this talk, I feel.
Okay, let's unpack it, because my goal for this conversation is to understand how companies can be better in managing, surfacing, and ultimately making decisions with data. Because that stat that I mentioned at the start of our interview is kind of engraved into my mind, because it matches my personal feeling that everyone says we are data enabled, we are data first, but no one is actually data first. And I think let's walk through this. So when you win a new customer, they say, great, we want to decide, we want to be data-based. Give me your decision engine. This sounds great. But then you walk into their offices and then you probably see maybe a Snowflake data lake. You see Excel data. You see maybe an ERP like SAP. There's probably a huge mess. So from the reality of day one when you walk into a customer to actually making decisions based on data, also future-looking decisions, there's a huge path to take. So I really want to walk that path with you. So let's start at day one. Customer says, Natzka guys, I love the idea. Here they throw over the fence all the data stuff that they have. How the hell do you guys make any sense of it? What do you do first?
First, let me see what do you use today to take your decision. And 99% of the time, they arrive with the typical Excel hell. Okay? Mm-hmm. And when I say Excel hell, you cannot imagine the kind of sophistication that I see in some cases where you arrive with tens, if not hundreds of Excel, okay, where some piece of information are loaded from a system, other piece of information are manually managed, okay, and then there is an email where you find the version 3 final plus, because you have to take into account also those situations, because let's make it clear, the transactional side on the main part of the company are already fixed and well managed and governed. Okay, you have the ERP, you got the Navision, you got the Dynamics, all the business critical part done. But when it's a matter of, okay, with all those data, I need to plan a new introduction of a new product, or I need to do my flash closing for my financial closing, monthly financial closing, okay? They still work in Excel. They still work manually, right? And they are using pieces of applications that they have. They do specific stuff, okay? And they need to consolidate them. And this is a manual, error-prone process. Mm. Then when we arrive, okay, let's us understand what you do. Then from there, okay, we start to first, how can we model all those data? And the model must be functionally oriented, not for data storage, okay? Stefan just said the importance of the semantic layer. Okay. We call the product, and we call the SKU. And we know that these are two different levels, and we manage them hierarchically. Okay, so we put it in a hierarchy that you know that user understand, and those are the first step. Once you have modeled your data in such a way, you can start to think about the process. How can we play with those data? So the third phase, then once you understand, and when you model the data, the third phase, how can I make those data move around for taking a decision? And we can do that with rule-based procedures that we can call the agent, okay? And then we start to organize all those little pieces of calculation inside a more broad functional process. And when I talk about the functional process, you can imagine that it can be a high-level decision, strategic, tactical, but also an operational one. And for that, we organize, in Natzka, we have a workflow tool that helps us to model the decision with an abstraction level which is so high that we can cover whatever kind of decision. Because now, this was a long talk with Stefan and with his team, try to understand how to create this kind of object. Let's talk about a decision. You can approve it or deny it. In another word, you can push forward or push backward. So the push forward can be a validation, can be a submission. The push backward can be I reject or I do not approve that. You see the different kind of decision, right? And when you abstract it at a higher level, it's okay, push forward and push backward. And with those simple elements, we can tailor and bespoke a decision in our tool, which is what is needed. Okay, it's much more than just look at the data, look at the dashboard. Of course, you leverage dashboard, you level graph, you level KPIs, high-level access to data, calculation of KPI, very, very aggregated, of course, but it's just a starting point.
I hope I
get
made
it.
it clear.
Yeah, I think I get it. Yeah. So basically your goal is, if I can summarize, your goal is building a digital twin of the company. Basically, decision processes, you try to simulate the company. So if I increase my price by 5%, what is actually going to happen, right? How much am I going to sell? How much more or less do I have to order, do procure? So that's basically what you're trying to do. And let me go back to the question of data, because if the data quality is not there, you're never going to be able to make the decisions. Your model is not going to work. So in the world, Andrea, that you described, the company has hundreds or dozens of Excel sheets that have macros, they feed into each other. That's the reality of how companies work. How much time do you spend into actually getting that data clean?
80% of the project. And I know I use Pareto, I love Paretos, but 80% of the time in a project is to crunch right data. Because garbage in, garbage out. Okay, we agree on that. And if you base your decision on bad data, your decision will be bad. Okay, so crunching the right one is the most complex stuff. And the way people start to understand, the moment people start to understand that you must have correct data and collect correct data, is the only way for you to take correct decision. And sometimes there is a misunderstanding, because I want to quickly create new data or access, and you create this with Excel, with those prone error tools, right? And then you got bad decision. Spend a little more time in crunching and looking for the correct data, and you will have a more correct, reliable decision afterward. Okay, it's logic, but it's not so evident in many situations.
What really helps here is data ownership. Some companies are moving in that direction already. And what you see from those companies that are successful at doing this, they have that semantic layer because they have data ownership. And it just standardizes the concepts across the organization, which makes it a lot easier for Andrea to onboard clients onto Natzka, to be fair.
Can you share what you mean by semantic layer?
Andrea, you want to take that?
Take an Excel sheet. You have the formula that points to the cell A1 and B2. Okay. If you move around your data, then the formula breaks. Okay. If you apply a well-organized semantic layer, which is when you refer to the revenues, you always refer to revenues, regardless it is in cell A1 or in cell A2 or in B5. Okay. You always point to the semantic signification, semantic meaning of that KPI. Okay. So if you have also to do very, let's say, more sophisticated calculation, I don't know, the end of month stock, you have to take the previous month stock plus the production minus the sales. You always refer to the previous month of stock, not to the previous cell. And there you overcome all the problems that you have with data when you manage them manually. But working semantically is a little more sophisticated. Okay, so you make the semantic access to the data more easy, and you will win a lot of users that needs to access in self-service their data. And when you win that, the problem that on the change management, on the user adoption will fall down, because people quickly and easily access those data with a sophistication that in Excel are not even possible. If you see my point.
Yeah, but let me challenge you on that, Andrea, because I like the idea of just, obviously, no, it's much better to use a tool if you can just write in plain English, give me the revenue from last year, January to April. But if you put this into reality, I mean, there's gross revenue, there's net revenue, there's like for like revenue because you bought a business last year, which you want to exclude. There's some kickbacks or other forms of remunerations that you might want to exclude. I mean, what you're basically, I mean, if I would turn the knob to 100 to what you're saying, Andrea, that would mean that I would not even need a controlling department anymore because they are the lords of the numbers, because I, as a marketing person, can just get all the data, you know, and I just talk to to my data and they give it to me. So help me there, Andrea. Is it really that simple?
Well, we are living in a fantastic moment right now because with the access to LLMs and to the artificial intelligence, all these kind of access to the data will make it much more easier. We are in a moment where the democratization, if I can call it like this, of the access to data is there. Okay. And we are actually working on it because with Stefan, we are developing our own MCP server, okay, that will enable the interaction with data through natural language. And this is just the first level of interaction of the data through AI for us, okay? Mm-hmm. And this is very, very nice topic, and it opens a lot of arguments here. In Natzka, we are building our MCP server to give this first access to the data, but take it as a first level, okay, of interaction. Now, before that, already, we can query in Natzka all the data with simple drag and drop, with gestures that are really similar to the pivot table in Excel, okay? And already there, with a simple no-code, we give access to query that has been only the comfort zone for 40 plus years, the comfort zone of people that know how to talk SQL. Okay, and I can talk SQL better than English, Alex, huh? And I love it. Now, imagine a CEO that do not have time to drag and drop his dimension. He need to ask the platform what was the revenue yesterday. There, LLMs become paramount. On a technical standpoint, with Stefan, we can tell you what we are doing is very, very robust because, you know, security-wise, there are a lot of concern there. Okay, we cannot push our data into whatever LLMs in the nature, right? But we are creating this first level. But we must go further. And in our AI integration roadmap, if I can disclose some ideas, this next level will be the possibility to have an artificial intelligence that will augment your intelligence in the meaning where you give context of all the query that you have, for instance, in a dashboard. Okay, you have a dashboard, a lot of KPIs, some graphics, etc., etc. Imagine to have a very powerful analyst that has all that context. And by simply asking why that KPI is so bad today, he can do the lineage toward the raw data that generate the KPI. And it can do this very fast and automatically, intelligently, right? And it's like having a very, very smart analyst close to you that knows all the crossing that you have inside your cubes, your tables. Okay, it's very, very interesting. And this is the second level there that we are going toward. The third one, but there I need to talk under Stefan's surveillance, is the possibility to automate a big part of the decisions. Okay? Human in the loop remain paramount for us, okay, because let's face it, you need to have a human validation when take some decision, okay? Because your AI, your agents can know everything, but they do not have the accountability for the decision. So you must be there and take the decision, okay? Some of them can be automated. The rule-based one can be automated, but we can go there. And this is a space, the agentic decision intelligence is a space that we are looking very curiously, and we are working toward it. And there are nice evolution there in the future times.
So very curious to see where.
And it's also interesting from a tech perspective, when we're talking about the semantic layer, if you want to ask your LLM a question about your data, you better ensure that this AI understands, if you can use that word, the data properly. And this is where the semantic layer to us benefits not just us human beings, it empowers the AI layer that we are provisioning on top of Natzka, which is really cool. The example given about revenue having multiple meanings, I've seen the same. Do you want the AI to pick one at random for you? Do you want the AI to prompt you? Which one would you prefer? If it does not know, you will probably not get the data out that you want.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. Yeah, I think for me, your company and what you do plays into one of the big themes that I see emerge over the past couple of years, and that is, how can I reduce the dependency that functions have, like marketing or the CEO or whoever, procurement, on supporting functions like data analysts or controlling. Now it always takes a lot of time, right, to get some kind of data. You need some person, they're usually backlogged or whatever, they don't have time. And you guys try to leapfrog that and build a decision layer on top so that everyone can not only query the data, but also ideally, doesn't even have to look at the data because some things, are maybe even decided already in the long term. I understand that point. So when I think about, let's talk about the way that you build your software. That's a topic that I'm really curious about because I also see some kind of a zeitgeist shift here. Because for the past 15 to 20 years, everything was about software as a service. And software as a service is basically standardized, mostly standardized, replicable. You just enter your credit card and then you get Adobe, Salesforce, whatever software as a service you want to use, it's for you, right? And you can use it. And that was the darling of investors and everyone loved it. And now with the advent of AI and also a lot of companies being a bit fearful that they get disrupted by Claude Code or whatever LLM you have, now the zeitgeist is shifting away from software as a service. And you've seen the decline of the stock prices of software as a service in the past week. And the poster child of that company is Palantir, as you all obviously know. They're in a different industry and do they do something different than you do. But still, I think the way that they build product is comparable because they also say, we don't want to build standardized, homogeneous software as a service. No, we understand that it's project-based, right? There's a consulting layer, and they invented terms like forward deployed engineers, embedded teams, and all that stuff. So do you agree with the thesis that the new software as a service is basically project-based software that you build? Or is there still a path for software as a service out there? Or is it the way that you do it with consultants, is that the way of the future?
Can take it, Stefan. Can I take this? Yeah. That is a very nice question, Alex. And we say that data should not be the objective. Okay, it's a mean to an end. Okay, let's start with this. Now the question is, what is the most effective way to bring the data closer to the end user? And you said correct. There are two distinct, I would say, philosophies. The first one, the pure SaaS. Off the shelf, usually it is priced per seat model, okay? And actually, let's say in very specific and vertical application, this approach wins. It works pretty well. Now, it works beautifully in business to consumer. Let's think the application that you have on your phone, right? We use the same application and everybody is good for it. In business to business, the one size fits all, it's more an utopia, right?
let's take the example. You have a lot of companies that belong to the same industry that works in completely different way. We have different processes, different decision models. Okay, but you can adapt again to what the vertical solution brings to you. Sometimes those customization can probably touch the application integrity, so you don't customize as much as you want, and you keep the application as it works, which is a good solution if you want to go quick to deployment, okay? You want to have a quick project and you don't care a lot about the customization, and you take it like this, it's okay. Then you have the other philosophy, Palantir one. Now, with Palantir, we have to talk about which Palantir. We have Gotham, okay, verbal intelligence, very specific use cases. But let's talk about Foundry, because Foundry is our competitor, or at least it's the space we are moving into it, okay? Now, Palantir approach with Foundry is, I would say, genuinely sophisticated. You have a very rich, multi-layered technologies stack with a lot of capabilities. You integrate some databases, and then you have some scripting, and you have to cope with a technological complexity that force you to have forward deployed engineering. You call it like this, right? FDs. And you need those because those consultants, because they can cope with the technology sophistication that you need. And then you have in place very complex and long projects, which is a way to provide you with a perfectly bespoke applications. Now, in Natzka, we sit halfway again. And this is a strategic choice. It's not done by chance. It's a strategic choice. First, how we do that? We must have let's say, a technology-centric way to deploy projects with a minimal consulting footprint. If you have a technology that gives you features, functionalities that as a manager you can leverage, okay, you manager, you know your decision, you know your the way your data, okay, so it will be faster for you to understand how to use them and to bend them into something that will provide added value when you make those decisions. So the holistic approach we are talking about in Natzka is what brings us to that situation where manager, be creative, do your things. You still need consulting, okay, because we must instill best practices. We must provide ideas, okay, on how to model. Oh, it's better you do it like this because you will have advantages in the future. It's like playing chess, okay? And then you see a little forward. But then it's just that. It is the manager himself that must be able to create and to model its own decision. And it must be easy so it can eventually make it flexible. And this is a little our philosophy. How will we do that? This is thanks to the way we are creating Natzka. It's always me against Stefan, me against Tobias, okay, because you have the product and you have the technology, and we talk a lot. And we want to have a platform that is removing all the unnecessary complexity, bring it by different layers. Because no layer, no pain, and no pain, no failure. If you see what I mean.
Just to circle back on something that was mentioned earlier about traditional tools having dependency on data scientists to make any changes in it. Even without the adoption of AI, we as Natzka realized early on that we want people to be able to access their data on their own merit. But we also realized that this is a dangerous thing to do if you just give them a big bucket of data. So this is where this balance comes in, where you need Andrea to do the project organization, the semantic layer, to define that across the organization, assuming the organization does not have that in place yet. But once that is done, the users can themselves talk to Natzka without the need to have another data scientist adopt their dashboard. No, we give them free access to their data.
I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. So when I in preparation of this conversation, I thought about this project-based way of building software, forward deployed engineers, however you want to call it. And I wondered, I don't think it's actually that new. It has this kind of vibe to it, right? And everyone's going crazy for Palantir. They think it's not as disruptable against AI. But if you look at one of the most boring companies that happens to be founded in Germany, SAP, it's an enterprise resource planning tool that many companies have. But I mean, that's their model as well, right? They have SAP, but it's heavily customized because they realize, this is the backbone of the company. And they have these SAP consultants all over that, so I would actually push back to that it's actually that new, right? I don't think it's new at all. It just comes back into fashion because now the B2B software as a service craze is kind of, slowing down, let's say.
Also, forward deployed engineer sounds more sexy than consultant.
It does, right? It does have a different ring to it. I totally agree. It sounds like they wear combat boots when they code, right? So I want to talk to you a little bit. I know this is not your main area of expertise, but I still want to ask that question because essentially you are solving problems that customers might not feel yet because they do have all those Excel solutions that kind of work. But everyone thinks, well, maybe it doesn't work for the next 5 years. But they still have, everyone has a working way of making decisions. So how do you sell to someone who doesn't know they have the problem you're solving?
I just want to intro this and then hand it to Andrea, but I find it so cool in a way that very often Andrea gets a problem thrown at him. But the solution that he comes up with is often far wider than what the customer has asked for. Andrea?
The first added value that we provide is that we make clear and evident connection between data. By consolidate them in a unique, strong, and robust model, okay, we see correlations between data that they do not even know they have. And there you can open a large scope of improvement and way of how, okay, now we understand that there is a relation between the sales and the amount of people that I hire in that particular branch. Okay, and they do not even know that. Okay, and this is one of the funniest things when working with data, that it's just numbers, right? And when you apply well math on top of those numbers, you can find a lot of insights. And this is what I love the most. And here, the consulting layer, the forward deployed engineer comes at hand, right? And because you must be also creative in a way. Okay, we are working in IT and we are consultant working. I feel being more of a nerd than of an artist. But when you are playing with that kind of information, that way you look at data, you can creatively use them. And this is an actually nice point of view and starting point. I mean, and an important added value that, managers like CXOs are so focused in their daily business, they don't have time to see those correlations that we can provide out of the box when we model correctly those data. And again, we have a link with your first question, Alex. Why a lot of AI data projects are fundamentally done wrong? Because you don't look at it. And we just store that data and we don't join them. And when I say join, I don't want to talk to SQL join. I mean join, on a pure
functional point of view. You see my point.
Question I want to ask you guys is how you use AI in building the product. Because there's a lot of stuff that you guys need to do. You need to clean the data. You need to provide an interface to customers. So how are you guys keeping up with the evolution of AI, and how do you use it?
So first of all, many people actually have difficulty understanding what they truly want, and AI can really help asking the right questions, the thing that you don't even realize you truly need. This is pretty transformative compared to traditional systems where you have to look around on your own hoping to find the thing that you want, and you don't really know if it is the outcome that you expected. How do we interact with AI? We see two different big interactions. It is both AI enabled on the Natzka platform. People that just want to adopt Natzka and immediately have access to the data in an AI way, perfect. But we also see a trend, it's getting bigger and bigger, especially amongst the enterprise, where companies leverage their own AI that they already have as part of their organization. So we see that we need to integrate with them so that through their centralized AI, they can ask questions about their data that resides in Natzka, for example. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about asking questions, it's also about taking decisions, taking actions. So we take the agentic approach. It's all the hype. Should have said it at least once in this talk. And we foresee a future where companies can leverage their own agents. They can leverage agents that are pre-built. They can configure agents in Natzka. And they can act on their behalf if they wish to do so.
Mm. That's a great segue, Stefan, because I wanted to ask you about, let's imagine you guys succeed. And we really reshape the relationship that companies and managers have to data. How does the organizational structure of a company look like when you guys succeed?
Andrea, I think this one is more for you.
AI makes it easier to consume data. This is given for granted, right? But it makes it significantly harder to manage bad data. So a big changes in IC eventually will be in the profiles that will be able to understand and to see if the data are good or not. Okay, and people that can prompt correctly all those tools. And you will have new, also the consultancy itself, Alex, can really change in that matter, because let's say that we reach a level where the agentic automation will make very, very easy to create a data model in Natzka, for instance. Let's imagine, right? Okay, you can ask an LLM to create your own data model. Then you must provide a prompt to be able to have an LLM correctly translate and understand and interpret those data. So as a consultant, you can provide that on top of whatever technology. So there is a shift toward people that will be able to leverage these new technologies to make the access to data more straightforward, more easy, okay, and streamlined. And this is where big changes will arrive in companies, okay? Probably you will still need to have the analyst and the controller, because they will be the famous human in the loop when the decision must be taken, okay? But where today you must have for one people that decide, a lot of people that crunch data and prepare those data, those can be completely taken in charge by agentic capabilities. And we already see a lot of this in the project in data pipelines, in data orchestration. With agentics now, you have with agentic capabilities, you have a lot of those control on enterprise application integration can be done by agents. Already in that tech part is there, but also in the analysis of data, we are going there. So people that can prompt correctly and interpret correctly what is the output that an AI will provide will be the next big jump and changes in the way you work in enterprise.
And to add to that, so Natzka allows business process modeling, the digital twin we essentially talked about before. And with the onset of AI agents, it allows you to see the steps that you have in your company, and it also allows you to see where there's a lot of weight that can be taken away in the form of automation, either rule-based, which is agentic as well, or true AI agentic. It really allows you to visualize what's going on within your company and make decisions on how to improve your processes within.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to see that. I mean, you hint at more of an evolution of the company. I see more of a revolution coming, because I'll be honest, there's companies, if you ask a simple question to companies, what work do you actually do and how much do you outsource to consultants and agencies, for example, to run your ad campaigns, or you search for talents for the HR function, there's so much being sourced out. And in my view, I envision a company that is in charge of all the steps itself. And obviously you need kind of a little a world model, a company model of your company, right? This digital twin that enables that. So it'll be interesting how this plays out, but I see there's not going to be I think every manager is going to be like a player coach, not just a coach, right? So everyone needs skin in the game to actually do the stuff and know the stuff. And you need kind of the tools to be able to take those decisions. That's where I, see the data come in. But you guys have to... Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I see it go. You said world model there, and there's going to be a time where it's not just AI agents within your company, within your own digital twin. It will be AI agents talking between companies. That is certainly a future that I foresee.
That's an interesting part. That's even the next level. Huh? So you guys, I think we have so much to talk about. But we are coming at the end of our conversation. So I have to tell you, I learned quite a lot. We started with data management, but I think we got to the core where I wanted to talk to you about how do organizations change? How do we build software in the future? But I can't let you guys know without asking you the question that I ask all of my guests. What is the best business idea that you would pursue if you had more time? Let's start with you, Stefan. What's the best business idea you would do?
So this actually ties a little bit into the AI world. And I'm not sure if it's too much of a business idea, although there's certainly money to be made. There's money to be made everywhere, I think. But AI has a heavy footprint on society right now. Energy is a big topic. And what would be lovely to see if AI can assist itself with finding remediation solutions for that. And whether that is purely on making data centers efficient or helping with the energy transition, which is a more global topic, I would love to see something in that direction. Perhaps there is already something like this out there. I cannot imagine no one is trying AI to solve this yet, but yeah, I would love to see something there.
Ah, interesting. So let's call it like an environmental AI layer that utilizes, this is a point that we didn't have too much time. I would have loved to talk to you about this in our conversation, but we didn't quite fit it in, is the usage-based pricing as well, right? We have to maybe punt that to the next one, which also difference to the software as a service model, not charging per seat, but per usage. So that's an interesting way. I mean, imagine this applied to like heavy industry, like I don't know, producing steel. I think there's probably a lot of money to be made for the company using that layer. That's an interesting business idea. Stefan, Andrea, what's the business idea you would do?
Oh, if you ask me tomorrow, it will be probably different. Leverage AI again I can tell you the serious one and the most fun one. The serious is that leveraging AI provide in the educational space a way to help understanding maths and this kind of stuff to kids with disabilities. Okay, I think that there is probably a space there where you can leverage a lot. I see by experience working with my nephews when I try to help me with his maths, right? And it's kind of a space where there is something to do, but without being again in the space of AI and stuff like this, I'm thinking about the perfect infotainment system that perfectly balances digital touch with physical button. Okay, it's not related at all with the IT or AI. But
Explain, Andrea. What do you mean?
When you know that today in cars, physical buttons are disappearing.
Yeah, that's a shame.
For
I have
me,
to tell
this
you.
is a problem for humanity. So we need to find the right balance between the physical button and the digital touch in an infotainment system. Okay, so this is a problem for the next time.
For a
I
designer,
almost
maybe.
wonder if that is an analog for how we look at AI, because I know there's people pushing AI so much into it will replace everything, which is kind of similar what we just said about touchless interface or buttonless interfaces. Isn't that too much? Don't we need the human still to be there? Which is certainly something that Natzka is saying, by the way.
That's a great thought. That's a great thought to end on. So, Andrea and Stefan, thank you for giving us an insight into your company. I really appreciate it. I think we touched on a lot of stuff. So, thanks for all the insights and talk to you soon.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Bye.
So, das war meine Folge. Vielen Dank fürs Hören. Wenn du mir helfen willst, dann abonniere diesen Kanal. Schreib mir gerne Kommentare an alexander@digitaloptimisten.de oder unter diese Folge. Die nächste Folge kommt wie immer nächsten Montag. Bis dahin, bleib optimistisch.